Thanks for tuning in to Retiring Well. We've got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be sharing what does a financial advisor cost you, along with sequence of returns risk. Can you stay retired? That's something that you're going to want to listen into, and how the Inflation Reduction Act impacts retirees. So all this and much more coming up right now on Retiring Well.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well, plan to retire well.
What does a financial advisor cost you? You know, I don't believe there's many financial advisors out there that are a nonprofit. You know, there's going to be some fees or costs associated with the services you're getting in that scenario. I think of it this way. You wouldn't walk into a new car dealership and buy the first car that you've seen without even questioning the price. Maybe you would, but I guess at least I know I wouldn't, and I don't think many folks would do that. So same with a financial advisor. You have the right and deserve to know, what are you paying? What fees? Is it a monthly fee? Is it an hourly fee? Is it a set fee? What are the various fees that are associated with the services you're getting? Is there additional one-time expenses and all of these sort of stuff? What are trading expenses? All of these different things are going to add up to kind of complete your total cost to having those services. And so, like most things that you're receiving, you as a client of that are going to then start to look at is, am I getting value for what I'm paying for? You know, the same thing you do when you buy a product, right? You examine the price, the worth of that to you, the quality of that, and is it of value for that particular cost that it is. So with financial services, it's really no different. You know, what other benefits am I getting from that? Hopefully you're at least getting the money management aspect and the investment plan from that. Is there other services you're getting? Different planning aspects. You know, do you have an income, a cash flow plan that's walking you through different layers and years of where money is coming from and how that looks long term? What buckets are it coming from? Is there a tax plan in place where it's helping minimize taxes either right now or looking ahead and developing plans that are going to put you in a better tax situation further down the road? Is there estate planning that's being done that's going to help make sure your surviving heirs are in a much more secure place and don't have any major headaches when you pass? You know, again, what different services are you getting for this fee or fees that you are paying, and is there a perceived value for that? Again, things are only, every individual is going to have a specific thing in their mind of what does that determine. If somebody's paying a certain percentage, one person may feel that that's a great bargain. The next person that comes in may not feel that. I stress to you, though, if you are having investment advice provided, and even not, what are the fees associated with investing? There's very seldomly do we find an investment or any sort of plan or services that there's no cost to. So even inside these 401ks and stuff where you don't really have an advisor, what are the investment costs? So I challenge you to pop open that portfolio, and if it isn't clear, ask the question to your plan, to your advisor. What am I paying, and what services are available to me for the cost that I'm paying? If you don't know, we'd love to help you walk through that and make sure that you're getting value for those services.
You know, what a great segment on that. How important is it to know what are you paying and what are you getting in return? You know, I recently had a couple come in from Manistee. We met in the Cadillac office there at an M55, and what I asked them, I said, hey, what brings you in here today? And basically it was like, hey, my wife is here. I do all of self-managing of our portfolio. She just needs to hear a financial advisor give me the green light, okay. And I said, okay, that's awesome. Let's see what you got. Let's dive into it. And what I appreciated about them is that he had one of the best learning hearts I've ever seen. And basically, at age 50, he just became obsessed with investing and how to do it well. And as we went throughout the meeting, what he realized was he didn't know what he didn't know. And he didn't know that there are other products out here. You know, the forum that he was using didn't include the information that we have access to. And it was a surprise to him. him that there was more out there, and so I was able to get a whole bunch of different illustrations for him and send him his way, and I know the breadcrumbs I threw his way will keep him busy for a long time as he continues his learning journey. And so, at the end of it, yeah, his portfolio had very, very, very little fees, very fee conscious, but maybe there was some lack of value that was being missed because he didn't talk to independent financial advisor.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Jack, there. I mean, that client, he understood the fees that are associated with his portfolio, and maybe he was trying to avoid paying higher fees by employing a financial advisor on his behalf. But oftentimes, what I find, especially in the Gaylord office, is, people will come in for their first meeting and they will have absolutely no idea what they're paying in fees for their current financial advisor. And so here at Centennial Wealth, we can get behind all the different investments that you have and inform you, let you know, hey, this is what it is actually costing you to work with whatever financial advisor you're working with. Another cool thing about us here at Centennial Wealth is we're going to be very transparent. We're going to, in our first meeting, outline the different costs and how we're paid to help you plan to retire well. So stay tuned. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about sequence of return risk and can you stay retired?
Swing with swing shift. Swing shift and the stars.
When you have confidence in your retirement future, you can live the life you've always imagined. Because of planning, you now have time to reflect on the wonderful memories of your life. You and your spouse finally have the luxury of leisure time together. To spend fun times with your grandkids, sharing the joy of their excitement about life. Smiling at the thought of quality time with your children and of picking up the check. At last, you have time to breathe and rekindle the love of your life. Why? Because you imagined what could be. You planned for retirement. So today, you own your future.
Hey, welcome to this segment on sequence of return risk. To set this segment up, I wanted to show you what happens when you see a series of returns over a few years. I used the 2008 return, a negative 37%, then followed by 2009, 2010, and you can see on your screen what $100,000 would do with those series of returns over 6 years. You would end in your portfolio of about $143,747. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to flip that sequence. Instead of a negative 37% being the first year return, we're going to let it be the last year return. And so you can see on your screen we flipped the return sequence, started with $100,000, held it for the entire time, and even with a flipped sequence, still had roughly $143,747. So the sequence of return, when you're holding the investment, you're not adding to it or taking from it, no difference. Now, let's talk about once you enter retirement and a distribution starts happening. Or maybe you're getting close to age 72 where the required minimum distributions are going to start affecting you. Now let's look at the sequence of return and see if there's any risk in it. On the left side, you can see that we start with $100,000. We're going to take out 5% each year. So you're going to see the return of a negative 37, and then we're going to take out the $5,000. Bump that to the next year and let it flow through. You can see when you take that big loss as your first year, after those 6 years, you have roughly $101,179. You've been taking distributions each year. Now let's flip that. Let's take that sequence of return, still take the $5,000 distribution each year. You can see that once you change that sequence of return, that you're going to end up with about $121,921, even after taking those distributions. So this is a quick example of how sequence of return risk can impact you. You know, as you get closer to retirement, it's something, or as you get closer to your RMD age, it's really important that you understand how your portfolio might be exposed to that sequence of return risk. There are solutions to that. There are ways that you can plan for it and then plan for a portfolio that will insulate yourself against selling at a loss so that you can still take that RMD or still take that distribution to enjoy retirement and let the money that's in the market be in the market longer. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, give the number on the screen a call at any time.
The stock market has a natural life cycle that is destined to encounter peaks and valleys. Those scenarios are frequently preceded by events such as changes in interest rates, new international trade negotiations, treaties, and tariffs, fluctuating levels in the national debt, global events that threaten the economic stability, political controversies that impact national policies, dramatic news headlines that shape investor sentiment. While each of these issues, and certainly all of them combined, generate cause for concern, it's important to remember that we have been in similar circumstances before. One way to help gauge market-related anxiety is to consider observations made by renowned investment experts who have weathered many markets' ups and downs over the years. Contact us today for a complimentary portfolio risk assessment. We'd love the opportunity to help you plan to retire well.
You made it. Years of hard work, investing, planning, and now you're here. The long-awaited reward you spent a lifetime looking forward to. But what now? After years of growing a nest egg, now you may want to manage it. Use it to fund your dreams. Make it last as long as you need it. And leave some for those you love. So what do? Wall Street continues to be uncertain, and some conservative options have dropped through the floor. How do you maintain opportunities for growth and reduce risk of loss from market changes? That's where we come in. We are financial professionals. From investments and insurance products to tax reduction strategies and guaranteed retirement income you cannot outlive, provided by the claims-paying ability of insurance companies. You've worked a lifetime to get here. Let us help you enjoy it to the fullest. For a complimentary consultation, simply contact us today.
Oftentimes when folks come in for the first visit with us after watching the show or maybe attending one of our live events or being referred by one of their friends, they'll say, Art, John, Nick, Jack, can I retire? And it's interesting because there's a lot of other variables that come into that play. And I think about that question, can I retire? So often people have worked for 30, 40 years and trying to get to this culmination of this day they walk out the door and retire. But I challenge you to think about this another way, is there should be a follow-up question to can I retire? Because for most people, can you retire? Probably. I mean, depending upon what your financial situation is and expenses and budgets. But think of it this way. Can I stay retired? Recently with this higher inflation that we've all experienced here in 2022, and we'll see how long it lasts, but can you stay retired? With rising expenses, with uncertain longevity for yourself and your spouse maybe, and your family, and just unknown expenses, can your financial plan, retirement plan, absorb these different things that are going on in the world and in your lives? Here at Centennial Wealth Advisor, we've always been looking at long-term sort of stuff. There's certain variables that nobody can predict, obviously, but doing our best job to make sure you have an all-encompassing, holistic approach for being able to be retired for 20, 30 years or more. If you're somebody, oftentimes I think people underestimate how long they're going to live. And also even what are some expenses that you're going to have. So let's assume that you live longer than you think you are going to. You don't want your money to expire before you do, right? You don't want to have to be sitting there and only living on Social Security, let's say, or not having that basket of funds to draw from. So as you're sitting there and maybe you're somebody that's nearing retirement or coming up on it soon, think of that. Not only can I retire, but can I stay retired? What funds, what income flows are going to be there? What tax planning do I need to do that's going to allow me to be retired for 20, 30 years or more? Not long ago, a gentleman come into our office and kind of was bragging about he had been collecting his pension longer than he actually worked for one of the auto manufacturers. And that really kind of light bulb went off for me. And I said, yeah, that is why we talk so much about staying retired. So if you're concerned about this, can I stay retired aspect, and does your plan meet those needs? We'd love to sit down with you, have a no cost, no obligation initial visit with you, walk through all the various steps and look at your budget, look at your cash flow, look at your retirement needs, and make sure we can help you put together that 1,000-piece retirement puzzle so you can plan to retire well.
Jack went over a lot of great information there and really kind of dialed it in on the differences in sequence of returns. When I think about that, the only way to combat that is to plan. That's really the only thing you can do to get ahead of it. And I go back to some experience in my flying days. Jack and I were both pilots, and that is one of the first steps before you get into plane is planning your route. Knowing where you're going to go. We had multiple different airports planned out, so if something were to happen, we would know, okay, we could land here and so forth. I went to flight school right here in Traverse City at NMC, and they did a great job preparing us for any of the little bumps that could come along the way when we're out there traveling across America in our planes. Not everybody had that flight experience, and I know Jack's got a very unique situation with his flight training.
Yeah, I want to tell a quick story just about some of my flying experiences, the planning that went involved every time we went up in the air. And but I want you to look at the story from a retirement aspect, and think about the different actions that your sequence of decisions can impact you. So it was about 2002. I was flying home from treetops from a golf outing that was a fundraiser, and the weather turned really bad. I was in a Piper Cherokee 140. It was low wing. So when that weather hit, I said, it's time to land. Camp Grayling was right there, radioed. Nobody was there, fortunately, but I landed and got to safety. And after the weather blew through, then I took off flying again. And as I got closer to Grand Rapids, it was dark by then because I was delayed. my plan did not go as I thought it originally would, and I was in communication with the tower, and I had to confess. I said, I'm disoriented. I'm not exactly sure which direction I'm flying. And so as soon as I told him that, I had the thought, I've never switched my gas tanks. And so I looked down at my left tank gauge, and it was at 0. I was flying on fumes. I switched my tanks. That surge of anxiety left, and flight following right there at Grand Rapids, they said, hey, look to your left, and their runway lit up. And to see that light and to know the direction that I was going was one of the biggest sense of peace I've ever come across in my life. So if you're sitting there and you feel like you're going the wrong direction, or if you feel lost, or if you feel some anxiety, you give us a call. We love to teach, and we love to help, and we love to add value. Coming up next is how the Inflation Reduction Act is going to affect retirees. Stay tuned.
If you like watching Retiring Well, make sure to go to youtube.com/retiringwell and click the subscribe button to never miss any of our TV shows and other informative videos.
Remember when life was simpler? When things didn't move quite so fast, and the world didn't seem so complex? Remember that? We do. And as the world around us has continued to speed up, becoming more complicated, and still a bit uncertain, we have managed to keep things simple, providing sound, easy-to-understand financial advice and customized roadmaps for the road ahead, from tax reduction strategies, investment advice, and guaranteed retirement income you cannot outlive, backed by the claims-paying ability of insurance companies. We can be your single point of contact, a single call, a voice you recognize well, and a partner who can be by your side for the entire journey. We can't stop the world around us, but we can help ensure you're prepared for what's to come. To schedule a no-obligation meeting, simply contact us today.
Your grandchildren are precious to you. They are your life. This is your time to have that special relationship. Taking care of yourself is taking care of them. Centennial Wealth Advisory is offering a free, no-obligation retirement review to make sure you don't run out of money during your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
Living life isn't always easy. It puts up challenges and obstacles you'll have to overcome. There are responsibilities. You put in effort to provide and take care of your family, and to save and invest, to balance work and life. Planning is the first step to succeeding. Plan to retire well.
A lot of times we'll see a bill or an act put into place, but you may be wondering what impact that really has on you. So here in 2022 is the Inflation Reduction Act, and specifically what impact did that have for retirees? And we're seeing the primary impact involves prescription drugs. So beginning in 2025, Medicare recipients will have a $2,000 cap on their annual out-of-pocket prescription drug expenses. So under the current law, the Medicare program is banned from negotiating different drug prices. So you may be paying the current market price, which I'm sure a lot of you that are watching have witnessed that, as prescription drug prices maybe have been climbing over time. The expectation is that ultimately with this competition, the drug companies are going to, in order to compete, be dropping their prescription drug costs to make it more affordable. Medicare, it will phase this in by negotiating on the 10 most expensive drugs beginning in 2026, and then it's in 2027 they'll have it down to 15, and then in 2029 the most expensive 20 drugs. So again, that's going to be changing as time moves along. Another area is insulin. Price cuts for Medicare recipients is something that those with diabetes are going to be thankful for, is they're going to be reducing that to $35 per month for insulin. There's also no-cost vaccines, including, I guess, the shingles, annual flu shot. So Medicare will be required to provide any vaccines recommended by the CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices at no cost to Medicare recipients. So the biggest thing that we find in retirement that's changed over the past decade or more is health insurance. And that's so vital when you're approaching retirement and you're not quite sure yet what your budget looks like. You're going to want to be doing your research, or that's where we have a team here at Centennial Wealth Advisory that specializes in health care and what those costs might look like as you're building your plan and trying to determine what those costs are going to look like for you in retirement. Healthcare is going to be a key area that you're going to want to be paying attention to. So that's not only leading up to age 65 when you're shopping around the different marketplace plans and how you may want to structure your income to help with potential healthcare subsidies, but then also when you get to 65 and it opens up for Medicare, different Medicare Advantage or supplemental plans that you'll be researching, that's where we're hopeful that you give us a call and we can help sit down with you and help evaluate all your different plans.
A lot of great information there on the Inflation Reduction Act and how it applies to you in your retirement. You know, one of the big takeaways that I got from that is the cap on those Part D prescription medications at $2,000. That's huge. In fact, I just recently got a call from a client who is taking some very expensive medication. She has a rare form of cancer, so it requires a rare medication to treat that. Her payment is north of $2,000 per month for this one medication, and it essentially is keeping her alive at this point. So there's no doubt she has to have this medication. So in a few years, when this cap gets put into place, she is going to benefit tremendously from having this cap on that medication that she's going to take. And everybody's situation is so unique, right? I mean, there's probably a lot of different ways that this Inflation Reduction Act is going to really help you in retirement.
Yeah, you know, I recently had a client out of Cadillac who was talking about this Inflation Reduction Act and talked about the cost of their insulin. And so we had a conversation that, hey, this is probably going to affect a lot of people in helping them pay for that copay for that insulin. But you know, when I step back and I listen to Nick talk like that, you know, how helpful is it that that clients, you know, have a trusted source to come have these conversations. You know, when we're having a client review meeting, we're not really sure what is going to be on their list. I mean, we have our list of things that we want to talk about, but for our clients to have a trusted resource that they could bring their concerns, bring their worries, bring their goals, bring their triumphs, really makes this a thoroughly enjoyable job. So thank you so much for tuning in and watching us. We hope we add value to your life. So come back next week, same time, same station.